and welcome. You're watching Medically Speaking, and I am Meenakshi Upreti. Mental health, an extremely pertinent issue, but hardly talked about. Why is that? Why do we not talk enough about mental health, the pertinence and importance of the same, and why we need to talk about the significance, importance of keeping our mental health in shape? That's the topic for today, viewers. Now, many of you may ask why we are discussing that. It's the Mental Health Day. These days come every year, but this time the theme very interesting. Mental health in an unequal world. COVID, this pandemic, the deadly second wave which we went through has really taught us a lot. It has taken a toll on our mental health. Those who suffered from COVID, many who were just watching national headlines or getting anxiety just sitting at home. What really can be done by us, by those who are taking care of others suffering from mental health issues? We'll be discussing all of that and more in detail. And for that, as you can see, I have my panel of experts as always. Welcome, all of you. I have Dr. Nand Kumar. He is an honorary president of MHFI and professor of psychiatry at AIIMS. Thank you, sir, for joining us. I also have Dr. Manish Kanpal, professor of psychiatry. He's from the Ram Manohar Loya Hospital. I have Aditya Kumar. He's the honorary director of MHFI. And I also have Aditi Rana. She's a chief coordinator there at MHFI. I'm going to start, first of all, with you, Dr. Kumar. Now, as far as the COVID pandemic is concerned, as I said right at the onset of this discussion, many of those who did not even suffer from COVID were anxious. Many are still anxious, even though the numbers are on the downhill. Mental fog, brain fog, etc. cases coming up. Do you think this COVID pandemic has taught many of us to take our mental health more seriously, sir?
Definitely, yes. Thank you for inviting me. In fact, no, you started with mental health, and you also mentioned that we are discussing about mental health nowadays. See, mental health is day-to-day phenomena. No, you cannot separate it. You cannot separate it, mental and physical. Both are so hugely integrated. Suppose, for example, if you plan to do anything, it has to come first in the mind. Then only you can physically execute that. So that's mental health. Mental health is not a mental illness. Just like a physical health, like we are all physically healthy, no? Despite our change in the body shape, size, and texture of the skin, we all are healthy. So health has a dynamic. So mental health is just like that. It's a huge dynamic. Unfortunately, the stigma is there because when the people talk about mental health, they get misperceived and confused like a mental illness. So mental illness is entirely different. Mental health is different. So health is day-to-day phenomena.
All right. So you said 3 points, sir, and let's elaborate that and let me bring in other panelists as well. First, you spoke of social stigma. Then you spoke about mental health, and finally about mental illness. Talking about stigma, and Aditya, do come in here. Now, as far as the stigma around mental health is concerned, since you are, of course, in communications, you also interact with us in the media on a day-to-day basis. What are the activities which you all have taken this time around to spread awareness around mental health?
Actually, since 2014, we are celebrating Mental Health Day every year on the 10th of October. So, why we started this mental health celebration? We started the celebration just to initiate, a conversation regarding importance of mental health. So, on day-to-day basis, I'm noticing more and more youth, particularly, they are engaging themselves with us and they're participating in our events. And this is the only way. If you will start a conversation regarding mental health, it will help the people to understand the importance of mental health. And this year also we are celebrating virtually from 8th to 10th of October from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So all are invited, and we are trying to inculcate this awareness among the people.
Right. And, Aditi, before I go to Dr. Kanpal, and I'll talk about mental health and mental illness, since we're speaking of social stigma around mental health is a topic which is not talked about. Of course, shielded by stigma, patriarchy as well, and shame. Now, when Aditya speaks of the participation of the youth, what type of participation are you seeing really from the youth when you have these virtual programs? And are you still seeing some sort of a reluctance when it comes to accepting basic issues, perhaps like anxiety, panic attacks, if not a sort of mental disorder or even depression?
Thank you, Meenakshi, again for inviting me and letting me be a part of this panel. Meenakshi, we have been organizing this board. I'll just give a brief about Mental Health Foundation India so that you have a background of where we are coming from and why we're actually conducting these programs. So, Mental Health Foundation India is basically a non-profit organization which came into being in 2003. Okay? So, since the last 18 years, we have been working, through different programs to promote mental health in a very holistic manner. As Dr. Nand talked about that, when we're talking about mental health, it's not only mental disorders or diseases, but it's the overall well-being of a human. As we talk about our physical well-being, we exercise, we do meditation, we do yoga, we do jogging. Same way, when we're talking about mental well-being, we have to look at it from a holistic perspective, and that is what Mental Health Foundation works towards. Now, we have taken several initiatives through all these years. One being, our annual Mental Health Day celebration, which is on 10th of October, as Aditya sir mentioned. Other than that, we also happen to have filed a petition in the court to decriminalize suicide.
Okay.
Yeah. And when we are talking about mental health and when we are talking about stigma, then one thing that comes into picture is the language barrier that people have, right? Now, when we're talking about all of it, we are coming from a place that, we understand English, we understand these languages. But the majority of the population in India is Hindi speaking. And there has been a lack of any publication that addresses to this audience. So Mental Health Foundation.
All right. I get your point. So of course, from regional differences to, of course, language barrier also exists. That's a very interesting point, because perhaps in metropolitans, mental health issue is more talked about, whereas in rural areas, I agree with you, maybe it's a topic which needs more attention. But Dr. Kanpal, come in here, sir. Okay, we've addressed the part of stigma, importance and significance of communication. Let's talk about mental disorders, sir. Now, mental disorders, we all know, is the second leading cause of disease burden when it comes to, overall in terms of years, or people who are living, with this sort of debilitating condition. Help us understand, sir, what are the alarming signs which one must watch out for? I think Dr. Kumar raised a very important point right at the beginning. When we speak of the difference, mental disorder totally different, mental health totally different. When a person starts seeing, signs which are alarm bells, which actually should sort of, garner a reaction from their loved ones, from those around, that doesn't happen. Help us understand, what are the alarm bells? What are the signs which one must look out for right in the beginning, sir?
Very good. Good evening. First thing, Dr. Nand Kumar rightly expressed, there are two different things. One is the mental health and second is the mental illness. And health we define as a very sense of not an absence of disease, but a sense of mental, social and functional well-being. And it is the state in which a person can function to its optimum. This is a health concept. And second concept that we have said is disease. Like you already said, there is a lack of awareness in our country regarding the mental illnesses. It could be because of various factors, because of low education, because of low literacy, what we call as, because of decreased number of mental health professionals. This is also one of the causes. We don't have so much mental health professionals in our rural settings. So yes, this is one of the causes. Second, stigma. Even the people have disease, they don't want to talk in public because of shame. This is one of the factors. And in mental health or mental illnesses, we say there are 2 or 3 broad classification of illnesses that we generally can say. One are what we call as anxiety disorders or neurotic illnesses. Second are mood disorders comprising of depression and mania or a bipolar disorder. Third one is a psychotic disorder comprising of schizophrenia-like illnesses. And fourth, also very important, are substance use disorders, disorders of addiction. Okay.
Right.
So in the first group of disorders, that is anxiety disorders, what we say, the people are they're extremely worried, not able to concentrate in their work. They're extremely concerned about small petty things. They have the physical symptoms like palpitations, pounding of heart, restlessness, either in a particular settings, that is we call as phobias, or in a normal general setting, what we call as general anxiety disorders.
Yeah.
Firstly, OCD, what we call as obsessive compulsive disorder, was also part of this disorder, but now it is classified another. In this illness, people keep checking things, repeatedly
But I
washing
tell
of
you what,
hands.
now, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, sir, and you're giving a very elaborate explanation. One, India certainly, as you said, has miles to go when it comes to infrastructure in the mental health sector. We'll be talking about infra as well. Let's first talk about, the condition you said. You spoke of depression, you spoke of OCD, you spoke of palpitations, which are very early signs.
Anxiety is high.
Anxiety. Dr. Kumar, do come in here. When a person goes to a counselor first, these signs, are they first of all even recognized as danger signs? Because now, in my mind, this just comes to my mind that it's very easy for the society to rebuff this as something which is very generic, not as an alarm sign. And that is when the condition becomes further more debilitating. How do you nip this problem in the bud, sir?
Okay, we can just try to have some analogy like a fever. If you have a fever, say for one day, you don't go to the doctor. You just take paracetamol or you just relax and you expect that it should be over. Similarly, like milder sign, like say for example, Dr. Khanpal was mentioning insomnia. For example, mild anxiety. Say for example, feeling too low. So these are the very common signs of the mental health problem. Say for example, something obsession. In the beginning, people don't go to the doctor. So once these all problems start affecting the life of a person, suppose insomnia is affecting my life, I tried to do some non-medical things like music, relaxation, and it does not help. Then I go to the doctor.
Yes, but are patients in general reluctant to even start medication? Because my
Yes.
question was
Yes.
just acceptance by yourself, first of all.
I will just come to that.
All
In
right.
fact, once the patient goes, so these are the smaller signs. So when the person goes to the doctor, that means that it is starting, affecting their life. Life is getting affected, either work or relationship or some biological function. जब ये affect होता है, then the problem starts. Now, when the person comes to the counselor or medical doctor, they expect some easy solution, not medication. Still the people are reluctant to have medication.
Yeah.
But if the problem is intense, suppose if I have intense insomnia, I'm not able to sleep at all since last few days, then I don't become reluctant to have medicine. If anxiety is bothering me a lot of palpitation, breathlessness, and intense thought that is bothering me, then the people start looking for the medication. But of course, there is a fear for the medication, and the fear is that whether it is going to affect us badly, it is going to be addictive, it is have side effect. Medication, may have to be taken lifelong.
So what would you say about these fears, sir? And why don't we let Dr. Khanpal take it, and I'll come back to you on the part of
So
infrastructure.
what we do, that totally depends how you explain to the patient. Suppose, for example, if some patient comes to you, and as a psychiatrist or as a counselor or psychologist, your perception is that this is an untreatable medical condition. So you have to take medicine for a long time. So once you start saying to the patient may be reluctant to take the medication because no one in the life, they don't want to take medication for lifelong, whosoever it is, you and I also. So actually what happens, we have to educate patient properly.
So
See, for example,
I get your point, sir. I get your point. Time is limited and I have to fit another guest as well. But I do get your point. Let me go to Dr. Kanpal and I'll come back to you and we'll discuss this in further more detail. Dr. Kanpal, you were talking about various types of classifications rather of mental disorders and the mental illnesses as well. So when the situation, of course, becomes extremely grave, then you see suicides. Very unfortunate, but very high. When we speak of in India, number of suicides in India is certainly increasing at an alarming rate. If you look at the Crime Record Bureau data as well, certainly there is an alarming rise in the same. So the solution to this seems to be, as a layman in my mind, is recognizing the problem right in the beginning. Is that true? If yes, how much does that help you as professionals when it comes to diagnosis and treatment, sir?
Yes, as you rightly said, suicide is one of the leading causes of death, young death in India, and India is among the various largest number of suicide occurs in India. Yes, as we know that most of them, 2/3 or more than 2/3 of the persons who commit suicide have some sort of a depressive illness in them. So one of the leading causes of suicide is depression. More than 2/3 of people have depression. Yes. So what we can do is that one of the thing is what we have an apprehension. Some of our we have some education seminar or some seminar of the general health physicians. We had this in around a week before. So one of the concerns of the general health physician was that if we ask about suicide to the patient, we would instill that idea into his mind. उन्होंने पूछा हमसे कि सर अगर हम पेशेंट से पूछेंगे, उनका यही वर्ड था कि भाई आपको मरने का मन तो नहीं करता, सुसाइड के विचार तो नहीं आते.
I get your point. You instill the idea. So how do you refrain from that, sir?
Yes. So that is what our point is. No. Every patient who is coming to you with symptoms of moderate to severe depression has to be asked about the question of suicide.
All right.
And if the patient is saying yes, and have even thoughts of death wish, I don't want to enjoy living. I should die. Not active ideas that I would hang myself or I do something, but a passive idea.
Yeah, even harboring the ideas, of course, that has to be taken very seriously.
Very seriously. And these persons has to be referred to a mental health professional, either a counselor or a psychiatrist. One. The second thing,
how affordable is mental health treatment in India? That's my next question, sir. Because I think someone right at the beginning, Aditi, I think spoke about the rural-urban divide. How affordable is this to begin with? Can everyone access mental health professionals like yourself? Because I'm not too sure of that. How far is that? How far is that
it's an issue in the tier 2 or tier 3 or even rural settings. It's an issue. So for that, what we can do is, what we are planning to do is through digitally, we are trying to educate the general health practitioners out there about the common mental illnesses. We have run a program. We started running a program in which of a particular district, the 5, 10 leading physicians or government practitioners who are there. So this can be one of the way in which.
So I'm asking actually, I want to broaden this debate and talk. Yes, Dr. Kumar, do come in here. I actually not just wanted to talk about how much does it affect a person's pocket. I was also talking about the mentality of consecutive governments of India, not a particular government, because our healthcare spending has always been abysmally low. The amount which the Union Health Ministry gets, I believe it's not even 7% of that. The money itself is less, and not even 7% of that percolates to the mental health sector. Dr. Kumar, is that type of money enough?
Two aspects, no?
Okay.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are, sir.
Two aspects. One is the treatment access and cost of treatment. The treatment cost is, in fact, access is much better in India if you compare to the other countries. Say, for example, US, it's very expensive to have treatment for psychiatric condition. UK, it's very expensive. India, it is much cheaper, in fact. Like for NHS, UK, you may have difficulty in contacting the doctor, government doctor, maybe for 4 to 5 months. India, no, it's, I think within a week or perhaps day, you can contact the doctor. The treatment cost, there's a huge difference. We are much economical than the US, UK, and other European country. So access to treatment is there. The treatment cost is much less. Another part is no the doctor's availability. What Dr. Khanpal is mentioning. This is a difficult area because the distribution of the doctor are quite unequal. In Delhi, you will have 150 psychiatrists. In Arunachal Pradesh, you have 2 psychiatrists. Ranchi, you have 20 psychiatrists. Something like that. So this unequal distribution is important, and that may be addressed by various means. One of the major aspect of not getting treatment is the awareness. What Aditi was mentioning, we have a Hindi Mansik Swasth Patrika, Hindi magazine for Hindi area, rural area, they don't understand the English part. And we offer the mental health education in a very simple story format. And that is one of the way to perhaps make people aware.
And I'll tell you why I asked you this, and Dr. Kanpal, if you could come in here, and then I'll take a final question from all the panelists, sir. So, when we speak of mental health, and I'll use the term which is used very colloquially, very unfortunately, is that mental illness is a disease of the rich. And I'm sure as a psychiatrist, someone who belongs to this field, you've heard this line. The stigma is deep rooted, sir, isn't it? Because many believe that those who can afford, psychiatrist, psychological help are the ones who are complaining or even speaking about mental health issues, whereas in rural issues, it doesn't exist. But that's not really the case. Even according to WHO data, 80% of people living with mental illnesses are from rural or rather low-income countries, not from the developed world any which way, sir, isn't it?
Yes, the mental health, there's no economic divide in mental health. It's equally prevalent in richer or higher socioeconomic condition. Even we see it, there's a much more prevalent in the low socioeconomic conditions. There is basically what we call as a shift and drift. Even a person who's more or less middle income group, if he has or his family members have suffered from mental illness, slowly over the process of time, we see shifts to a lower socioeconomic. There's no as such divide. What we call is hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. I get your point, sir. Please go ahead.
So what we see is mental health, the mental illnesses are equally prevalent or even much more prevalent in a lower socio-economic class of people as compared to a higher economic class. And it is coupled by the fact that these are a set of people who are certainly much more reluctant to go to the doctor, considering the socio-cultural background. Most of the people still go to some sort of a priest or a tantric for their treatment, and what we call as a first contact of a psychiatrist. Right. We generally find even years before the person reaches the psychiatrist for the first time. They've been suffering for many years, but they are doing all their spiritual practices, going to various other practitioners.
But and perhaps, perhaps the time when someone even goes to a spiritual practitioner to lower their mental burden, it is sort of like counseling. Of course, it doesn't, I don't know how much it helps, but it is a cry for help, something which is ignored by the society, sir. I'll come back to you. And since we're speaking of social stigma and messaging, let me bring in a quick last word from Aditya, and then I'll come back to you for a final word. I'm not too sure if we have Dr. Kumar's connection with us still. Aditya, one more question to you before we wrap up. The significance, tell us a little bit about the importance of Mental Health Day and why we're all even here speaking about the same.
In our country, not in our country, but worldwide, we know the importance of physical health, but we don't understand the importance of mental health, because in 2017, our Honorable President of India, Ramnath Kovindji, rightly said, he said, India is facing a possible mental health endemic. Why he said? In the same year, a study was being conducted. And it was being revealed that 14% of our country's population is suffering from one or other kind of mental illness, either depressive kind of or anxiety kind of. Due to stigma attached to this, mental illnesses, patient is not able to go to doctor. He avoids to go to doctor.
Yeah,
and this is a very high time when we should create more awareness. And Mental Health Foundation, and you recently, just now you asked Professor Kandpal regarding suicide. Suicide phenomena, we are already working. Mental Health Foundation in India is already working with Tihar jail inmates. In Tihar jail, 16,000 inmates are residing. And our Mental Health Foundation is working on the various issues like suicide issues, anger issues, and substance use disorders. We are trying to help them. And this is second in the world after US. So importance is no doubt very much, but ignorance is there. So we have to
Ignorance is
make
there, right, and that's an area which we need to work on. And of course, as we likely very extensively discussed about the emphasis, the need for emphasis in rural areas, and the need to mitigate really the unequivocal distribution of professionals in rural and urban India. And Aditi, since by the looks of it, at least you look the youngest in the panel. Around mental health, there's always discussion of social media and mental health. You all, of course, are using social media, channelizing the power of social media for good to, disseminate messaging around mental health, but mindless scrolling. Reality of our generation, spending hours and hours on social media, that's something which is affecting mental health. Are you addressing that issue at all? And if yes, how so?
Very truly said, ma'am, that social media is, it's a blessing and a boon itself. There are aspects of social media that do cause a lot of distress. One of them, if you might have heard of it, is Snapchat dysmorphia. So what happens is that people using filters on Snapchat, they are now going to plastic surgeons and, they're of the view that this is how we want to look. So again, ma'am, Mental Health Foundation works, as I said earlier, holistically, right? So through our programs that happen annually, we talk about these issues. Okay, we address these issues, and a large number of the participants that come in are these youth, are the children, and the adolescents, and of course the adults as well, who are an active participant in the entire thing. So that's basically the entire idea of it. And before we close, ma'am, I would also like to, just say this one thing, that for the entire discussion, we've been talking about mental health and how we should be going to the doctors and all that. The very recent COVID-19 pandemic, a group which has been impacted a lot more than the general public per se are the healthcare workers and the doctors. So there is also a need to address their mental health issues.
Well, certainly, because the burden on them was unprecedented.
Yes.
And that is something, of course, all of us have spoken about in detail as well in the past. But of course, more emphasis needs to be laid on the same. And I believe we have covered a rainbow or a plethora, of topics around it, from the most recent Snapchat disorders to, of course, even rural areas. Dr. Kanpal, do come in between. We started with discussion around pegging it around COVID. Let's send it with the same. COVID-19 pandemic has brought mental health issues back in the limelight, because many people very openly spoke about the sort of anxiety, depression, all of the mental health issues that they went through because of the pandemic. How do we continue this momentum of spreading awareness around mental health issues? It shouldn't be that tomorrow COVID is a thing of the past and then we go back, of course, to our lives and treating mental health issues with as much apathy as callousness as we were maybe a year or two ago.
This is what we say. This is a high time regarding we as a society realize the importance of mental health and mental illnesses. So it is not what we say a single person or a single organization cannot help in it. It's a whole society, from the mental health workers to the governments to the society as a person, all of as a whole. If we pitch in, then only we can spread this awareness, and as a society we can be a mentally healthy society.
Right. And that, of course, that was the aim today when we all got together and spoke about mental health issues. And I really hope, as I close, that we have been able to reach out to our viewers and spread at least some awareness around the issue. I hope the viewers, if you know anyone who is suffering from mental health issues, reach out, of course, to a counselor, as the team of experts present here said, from social media to, of course, physical needs, all of that available for you. All we need to do is take initiative, accept that if there is a mental health issue, acceptance, early diagnosis certainly seems to be key. Hopefully, our messaging really has reached the right people today. All right. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. Next week, we will be joining you once again at the same time on the same channel. Thank you for watching.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.